Welcome everybody to the show. Joining us is another special guest, which for Serpent Day, we could not probably talk any more champ or champy, depending on what side of the river you want to call it. But help me, please welcome for the conversation for Serpent Day is none other than paranormal author and researcher D.A. Wysong. D.A.,
Hello,
welcome
everybody.
aboard.
Thanks for having me, Paul.
You're very welcome. Now, DA, so the default question I think is, since you're new to the show here, tell us just a little bit about yourself. Like, what really started your whole, I guess, your foot getting wet per at the pun here.
My
Uh,
paranormal journey, it
yeah.
began probably all of my life. I actually had a lot of paranormal experiences in my lifetime. So even as a child, I had just a lot of intrigue for the unknown and the esoteric knowledge. Um, so I guess it's kind of like just with that, with my own experiences, just always questioning what this could be or that. And I really have had a lot of experiences with haunted. I've lived in a couple haunted houses, and so I would just write stories along the way. And of course, I was raising my kids, didn't really have time to do that. So once I got them all out the door, I decided I was going to start taking it to the next notch. So I started out with some children's books, which were humorous books, which they're all doing really well. And then my first series, The Creeper Keepers, are basically just urban legends, ghost stories, things like that, about wendigos, werewolves, Bloody Mary, just that kind of thing. It's a 14-book series, best selling series, and it's for teenagers and teen and young adult. And then, but what really, as I guess I continued to have these experiences, I never actually saw a cryptid. But of course, Bigfoot always caught my attention, and then Dogman, a really close, second to that. And so I really started researching. I really do get lost in the research. And I'm like a white walking encyclopedia sometimes. So I'm very well versed because I've written 55 books. The
55?
Yes, the Monster Hunters of America is one of them from the Monster Hunters of America series, which is the Hunting for Champy that we're going to be talking about tonight. And that is a 25 book series. Um, and it's just, it's really based on historical fiction. And I think 26 of my books out of 55 are on the bestsellers right now. So I really highly recommend, if anybody is interested in, anything from cryptids, UFOs, paranormal activity, ghost stories, check me out. And I'm like pretty much all over the internet, and you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and on Amazon. So I need to work on getting an Amazon or an author page, but I just haven't done that yet. So, but I do have one that you can follow me on for updates and stuff on Amazon. So I'm pretty excited because I'm actually dipping my feet into my first collection of short stories called Anthology of Madness, which is actually the genre of horror, which normally I write like exploration and discovery. These books are listed under exploration, sometimes the occult, thrillers. It just depends on the book, but they're all based on historical fiction. So it might be a fictitious story, but it weaves in and out. And sometimes I think some of the books are more accurate than the history that we learn about and that we're taught in the education system. The first book of Monster Hunters of America begins in Nazi Germany. So, what's really cool about my books is if you're paying any attention to the disclosure that's going on with the congressional hearings for the last couple years. It starts out at in Germany and then comes back to the second book where she flees Nazi Germany, and that's when it all starts coming out with the Roswell crash, the MK Ultra, the Collins Elite, NASA. I mean, it's just I really bring the reader down into the rabbit hole. Really, I am down there so deep right now, it's crazy. The last book of this series was Hunting for Tulpa, and I released that, I think it was May 26th, and I just checked, and it's still number 4 on the top new release. So you know what the date is. So it's been 2 months, and a lot of people don't know what tulpas are, but a couple of my grandkids have just recently told me that is basically what goes on with anime, which, I'm always writing, so I don't have a lot of time to watch things on TV, but I did watch a little bit of that. So it's really cool, that they are and even in hauntings, Bobby Mackey's is only 2 miles down the road from me. Well, where it used to be, it's leveled now, but I have spoke several times on that too, and I do believe there's some egregores which are very close to what a tulpa is. Egregores are basically a group collective of, a lot of times us as paranormal investigators go in and thinking it's a traditional haunting, and really it's really about the egregores that are residing there. So anyway, it's a wide range of scope, and the new book that I'm working on right now will be released in October. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Perfect. Yeah, that's a lot of stuff right there that you just mentioned. But I mean, like you were saying before we even hit the record button, is you have so much going on that it's hard to even keep track of what you got going on next. So, I mean, that's always a good thing, though.
Oh
Always keeping
yeah, I
busy.
love it.
Yeah. Now, with champ and stuff and everything. So, I mean, what do you want to go by how you word it with the champy for the conversation?
I call him Champy, but we can go whichever way you want. Just lead the way.
It doesn't
I
matter
call
to
him
me.
Champy because I think it's a cute nickname. We all like
That's
cute
fair.
nicknames, right?
Yeah, of course. Why not? So champion it is then. We'll just go with that. But yeah, because I mean, on the Vermont side, obviously we have the sports team that's also named after Champ. So we got like the what is it, the Wake Monsters, which is Champ basically and stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
what I liked about your book, even though like I haven't read the other I'm trying to remember. That was like what again? Number 25 in your book.
Lake
For
Champy, I think, is number 7. Hunting for Champy, I think, is number 7. The last book is Hunting for Tulpas.
right, right,
So,
right,
yeah.
and yeah, number 7. So that just goes to show. But and Hunting for Champy came out in like May of 2025. So a year
Mm-hmm.
later and stuff. But anyway, one thing that I have noticed, and you kind of said it in your introduction, is like your historical fiction thing, which I've noticed because there's some stuff that I know about that I was just like, oh, I wonder if you threw it in the book. But so anyway, I also learned for in case people didn't also learn, but apparently Kendo, if you have the Kendo edition, you can kind of make it so that it like reads to you, and I was just like,
Yes, I
oh,
just recently did the Audible, so I'm super excited about that. And it's actually had a very warm welcome. I just recently did that in May when I finished my last book of Monster Hunters of America, and that has taken very good reception.
oh,
Yes.
I bet.
And a lot of people, they just, they want to read, but everybody's so busy.
Yep.
So I thought to myself, why not be able to turn that on in the car, put some Bluetooth on, go around and clean the house, to do whatever, just lay there and listen. It's the same as if you're watching TV. I would like to, I mean, actually, when I get this next book finished, I could really see this on a series on like a streaming channel. So that's my next goal with Monster Hunters of America, is to see it on the big screen. Because really the characters have such a great art development through the story, because it starts out with the protagonist as their grandmother and then their 3 fathers. and then it goes down to them. So it's like a lineage of monster hunters. So I think it's really a unique series, and I've gotten a lot of really good reviews and stuff on it. So I think there's a lot of people out there just as excited about it as I am.
I
So
would hope so because it was like a fascinating read that it wasn't just them hunting for Champy in the
yeah,
book because there was like where were they, like a haunted bread and breakfast or Airbnb thing, and
Airbnb,
then
the white lady,
yeah,
yes.
the white lady, and then it was Champy obviously, and maybe there was something else. Oh, they were talking about Salem, going to Salem, I think was the next
Yes, they
book.
did. They actually do go to Salem after that. They go find out about the Pugwudgies after that.
Yeah, that's what it was. The Puckwudgies.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So there was a lot going on, even though I didn't really know if the lady in white was like supposed to be previously or just from the series in general. So I'll just kind of took
No,
that at.
it wasn't any, it was just happened to be there, because I do think that a lot of times when we do experience something that's unusual or supernatural, I do believe it kind of opens windows to other things coming in. And so Jace, one of the monster hunters, when he begins his journey as a monster hunter, he's actually an atheist. So he's the one that's actually doing the remote viewing. And you have to read the Hunting for Rougarou to find out what happened. But something happened to him in Louisiana that changed all of that. So he just went from 0 to 1,000. Now he can hear, ghosts talking. So basically, wherever they go, there's always a secondary or third story in weaving into the storyline. It's never just the one topic. So I think that's how life is too. We can set out for one thing and then all these other things start happening. So,
Yep.
um, yeah.
Yep. And then down the rabbit hole we go. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh man, that's like that was my brain. Like, oh god, probably last month or whatever. Like I started to rethink of certain things and trying to pinpoint certain things, and next thing you know, I'm just like going down and down and down, and I'm like, yep, that's it.
And
My
I
brain.
even throw the geographical, I don't know, I've never been to Vermont, but when I really delve into the books that I'm writing, I really do try to put myself there and imagine what it would be like, all the way to what the smells would be or how it would feel with the weather. And I don't know if well, if you read the book, my concept of Champy is not like a typical cryptid. I don't think it has supernatural abilities or it's not interdimensional. I just believe it's basically a relic that is surviving from when it was Champlain Sea, I believe. Um, and a lot of that is because of a researcher by the name of Katie Elizabeth
Yep.
that has done some wonderful work. I really admire her work, and actually, I mentioned her in that book. And I actually am friends with her on Facebook. We've had a couple little discussions, but I do believe that they pick up with sonar. It's like an adaptability, almost like with the dolphins and the different whales and things like that. But I live in Kentucky where there's 400 miles that we know of that have cave systems. So what I put into the book, and I do really believe that this is kind of like a working theory for me. I do believe that they exist by going in and out of different channels that we're not maybe aware of. If there's cave systems in our on our ground, why wouldn't there be cave systems in waterways such as Lake Champlain that once was a sea? You know what I mean? So
Right.
they
Yeah.
could easily, would be plausible to think that these creatures could definitely exist with that kind of a habitat. They could come in and eat when they want to, and it's not like they're really disappearing into another dimension. They're disappearing into deeper waters. There's so much that we don't know about when it comes to the waters. You know what I mean? Including, I think Lake Champlain, or yeah, Lake Champlain is one of the biggest lakes around, right, in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if the top Lake Supreme, but I know it is one of like the top lakes that people know about for sure. I'm trying to I'm brain farted on the Wake Supreme one though, but I think it might just be Wake Supreme first, and then it goes like Champlain or something. I forget,
Right. I mean, it's
but
out there. It's
oh yeah, it
definitely out
totally is, and like it makes sense because I mean that part of the lake for Champlain. I mean, you got to think it's connected to Canada, so it must have been part of what would that have been?
there.
Atlantic
Like, yeah,
Ocean.
like when the Ice Age.
Yeah, the Ice Age, exactly. Yeah,
Mm.
right before it started to, uh, I don't even know a good term, but basically just not be as big and vast as it once was. So yeah, I mean, kind of like with the, and you mentioned it in the book, it's the beluga whale skeleton that we had found. I think it's like 300 feet or something. It's big,
That's
but
huge.
yeah, and you know what? Speaking of which, I can actually bring it up. Maybe we'll try it. Yeah, so here it is. Here's the part of it in the University of Vermont section, where that's pretty much what they found for people that are just listening to audio only. I'll just make sure to plug in this little photo, but just for the viewers though. But here's some proof that the beluga whale actually was found and is part of DA's book that she had mentioned. Because that was one thing I was wondering if you were gonna, add that to your
Yeah, I am
book.
very extensive on my research. I really am. I can get lost in the research, and I love how I can weave it into the storyline. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah, 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 totally, yeah. Which is what I was loving. I'm trying to remember because I know you said UFO, and I'm trying to keep it champy, but I think this still is considered champy type of thing. So I don't know how much you know about Vermont. Are you familiar with the Lake Champlain abduction that happened on August 7th, see Serpent Day, back in 1968, if I have my notes right? It
No,
involved.
go. Please do tell.
So it's called The Encounter at Buff Ledge. So here's a book by Walter N. Webb, and you can actually find this book on the Internet Archive. I just wanted my own damn copy, but
Right.
anyway, that's a different story. But one thing that caught my attention, and I've heard it mentioned again, and I forgot it came from this book. So anyway, I will do my best here while I try to talk to you about it, DA,
Okay.
is so one thing that they say is the picture here. Well, I don't know if I can get it to unblur a little bit or not, but
Mm-hmm.
which way are we going here? Okay. So anyway, this UFO here, yeah, it's not gonna try to focus, but unfortunately, you still guys hopefully get the idea. But anyway,
Gil, mention the title again at the end of and I'll check it out.
yeah. So it's that drawing. Let me just do it one more time. There we go. It's supposed to be a drawing of from the witness or one of or from somebody who's seen it, and it involved two entities in this UFO craft. But what was odd about it was that it almost looked like it had some sort of scales on it, almost like like
Really?
some sort of uh reptile or something. Let me see what it says here.
That
Um,
was in the ship, or that had come out of the ship?
it was actually the ship. Like these reptile scales thing was like part of the ship.
Oh wow.
Yeah, right here. It says for figure 9, it's Michael drawn November 4th, 1978, of the close encounter disc as seen from the dock. Two entities are visible through the central dome. Glowing plasma-like energy moved around the corrugated rim. After hypnosis, the witness reduced the number of square plates covering the UFO to 2 or 3 rows of fewer and larger plates. Plates also covered the bottom. But I don't know what that means. Is this supposed to be like scales or what? So again, it's encountered at Buff Ledge, a UFO case history from Walter N. Webb. So
Interesting. Now I have to ask, did they ever any of the witnesses ever see that ship come out of the actual lake or go into the lake?
um so they saw it hovering from the lake, and basically it started to get closer and closer and closer, and next thing it was like they were somewhere else basically. And because the book basically clarified like where on the dock they were. Somebody actually did a drawing of like where it was, where they were, and where it took off and everything. So
Wow.
yeah, it's a fascinating take of it. There is a, like I said, like a public. I think there's a public thing that you guys can borrow. I think that's how I managed to find it. So yeah, so there's that. But I didn't know if you have ever heard of anything like that, DA. Like I don't know, possibly some UFOs almost look like they have some sort of scales on them.
No, but you know what, when you were telling me about that, and I can't remember which book this is in, but I did do a lot of research, and it was because of the ley lines, about the really big lake that's in, like outside of Russia, where they've had a lot of UFO. Do you know? I can't remember the name of the lake now. I think it's the deepest lake known in the world, and it's very dark. And a lot of people, hundreds of people, have seen these UFOs go in and out, hover, lights, all that. Nothing with scales, but going in and out. It's between Russia and Yugoslavia. I don't know. It's somewhere around the outside of Russia. But
Is it
when the divers, so this was during World War I, I believe, or World War II, at the beginning of or the end of World War I. But they had some divers go in and actually saw these crazy looking beings that didn't have, they looked almost squid like. Do you know what I'm talking about? They looked squid like, and they did not have any kind of helmets, and they had the shimmering, they didn't have scales, but had like a shimmering, um kind of opaque lucent skin that
hmm,
kind of would remind you of a fish, you know?
right? Right.
Yeah. And I guess they had like headlights on their helmets, and that's how they saw that they were reflecting kind of like fish scales. But check that out. And I can't think off the top of my head because I didn't go back and research. You imagine 55 books in my head. So I have to kind of
Oh, I bet.
go over the notes a little bit. And I can't for the life of me think of what that particular book might have been. It might have been the UFOs, the third book, Hunting for UFOs, which was actually in Alaska, but I might have made reference to that. I did a whole chapter on it, and they were like Navy SEAL that went down there and saw these, and apparently, I think most of them, except for two, ended up dying
Hmm.
after the encounter, and then they were told that they weren't allowed to discuss it, so nobody talked about it for like
Years.
decades.
Yeah. I'm seeing something called like the 1982 alien swimmers incident. I don't know if that's it.
I don't know if it fits the description. It seemed like it maybe that was a drill. They were doing a drill, I think. They thought they were doing a drill, but the powers that be put them under there because they knew something was going on. So,
uh,
and a couple of them got the bends coming up so fast because they were so freaked out by what they saw. They really were freaked out. And they
caused
said they
severe
mentally,
decompression sickness. The bend. Yep.
yeah, and they said they telepathically communicated with them too, which really freaked them out.
That's
So
interesting.
that's the only thing that I could think of when you were talking about that. But again, there's so much we don't know about, including our waterways, especially these really deep lakes like the Russian lake. Which lake was that you
I'm trying to figure out how you even word.
pronounce it?
Yeah, it's like Wake Bacale, Bacale, Bacale.
I think that's it. Is it right out like it's like almost Siberia. Like
Yep.
it's yeah,
Yep.
that's probably it. Because there was another incident during the early war, and then that's when they went down probably in 82 when they got the bends.
Yeah, cause
The
this one
Navy
is
SEAL.
talking. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, cause this one they say the beings were like described as over 9 feet tall, wearing tight silver suits and round helmets, but carrying no visible diving gear. Command ordered the diver to capture one of the creatures. When they attempted to net a being, an unknown energy force or rapid decompression violently propelled the diver to the surface. And then, as you were just, I think, talking about, where the sudden ascent caused severe decompression sickness, which was the
Yeah.
bend. So it resulted in 3 diver deaths.
Yeah.
While
And then they were told they was like they had to sign a disclosure and everything. They weren't allowed to talk about it.
yeah, so that must be the right one that
But
you're.
when I went into and researched it, it goes into detail about what their skins looked like. It looked like they had a diving suit on, but it wasn't a diving suit.
But it wasn't.
No, it was their
Interesting.
skin, which kind of reminds you a little bit of the alien grays. You know, I mean, there's so many different, I think George Lucas kind of had it right with the bar scene in Star Wars, where there's just all these different species of unknown origins. So I think, for the longest time when we first started getting into the alien agenda, we just automatically thought they were all little green men. Then it evolved into little gray men. And now we're seeing that there's different heights, different shapes, just like humans. We're all human, but we all have very different characteristics. So, kind of like that. Well, when I was reading and researching that particular, it reminded me of another species of which I do believe they are underwater. I've always said that. I don't think they're coming from outer space. I think they're here and they've been here. I think they're interdimensional, that's for sure. Um and I do believe that there's a whole lot of them under the water.
Right.
It's kind of funny because if they tell us to look up, we probably should be looking down.
Yep. Yeah. Half the time we probably should be, but yeah, I remember a long time ago, a friend of mine from a paranormal group. He's on hiatus right now. He's been on hiatus for a while, but uh, he's the one that told me about some of the UFO things that he was working on, watching around his area when he was in Vermont still. And one of the things that he had told me about was like the UFO coming in and out of Lake Champlain, and I'm like, I'll have to remember that. So every time I get a chance to talk to somebody about Lake Champlain, I'm always asking about, if they ever heard about these, like, I don't even know if I should be calling them USOs, underwater submersive
Yeah,
objects,
I
or
just don't call them UAPs because that's a pet peeve for me. It's a government term with them trying to control the way that we speak.
look at thing.
I
Yep.
have a really hard. It's a big pet peeve for me. I'm calling them UFOs. I don't mind whatever the underwater thing is. We're just gonna, UFOs that come out from under the water. I'm okay with that, whatever. But just please no UAPs. But
Yeah.
and in my book, in the Hunting for UFOs, which is a third book, it's Rise of the Cryptids Unleashed, which is a 20-year timeline of basically everything from when World War II ended up until JFK was assassinated. So it was a lot of historical events. It's actually, the first two books are my two bestsellers. They're basically the top 50, years later. The Rise of the Cryptids is under there with the Holocaust fiction, but Unleashed is really interesting, and it's so interesting how things work. But in my UFO book, the third one in Alaska, a lot, when I was researching it, a lot of UFOs are in and out of the waterways. Also
Hmm.
in the I can't think of what the mountain range is now. I just did that. I did a show a couple weeks ago. Mount Shasta too. You know what I mean? They go in and out in the waterways, but a lot of eyewitnesses have seen lots of lights along that water. Where a lot of the planes go down too.
Oh yeah, where they disappeared or whatever too. Yep. Yep.
Like the
Yep. Yep.
Michael Douglas, like the Douglas, yeah, the Douglas,
Yeah.
not Michael Douglas, the Douglas
The Douglas
54,
planes.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that mysteriously
They never
vanished.
did find that one.
No, not yet. I mean, maybe we won't. But I mean, I know we just recently heard Discovery Channel found that one plane that was like what missing for 70 years that now had been found. So
Wow.
that's interesting. And
That reminds me of some David Pilates stuff there, where they go in the search teams, they've looked every inch, and then they go back a year later and everything's just sitting there on a rock. Go figure.
yeah, yeah, go figure. Yeah, so when it comes to the sea serpent, I'm just wondering though, is like, what else can we really say? You kind of vaguely said it too. You think they're more like the relic. They've been here all this time, but how? And I know you said with the tunnels and stuff. So like in your book, because I'm pretty sure Champy is not like your last known sea serpent one. I don't think, but how would you think these things that should be, we should be seeing them more than we are, especially as Katie Elizabeth would say, sometimes like with even the Sandra Massey famous photo that we have here, it's like, how come we hardly see them come up for air or whatever this particular one supposedly did to be seen on the picture?
Well, I mean, think about it. If you were, I mean, it could be anywhere from, well, they're saying anywhere from, 30 to 300 feet. I mean, that's a big animal.
Oh
So
yeah.
why would you want to come to the surface? If your natural habitat would be under and beneath, and that's where all your food is. And, she, like I, thinks that it's probably got both amphibious and reptilian, characteristics. So, I mean, in my book, they actually are spotted. There is one spotted in the marshes, kind of on the outskirts of where this Airbnb was, with their eyes shine, just like alligators and stuff. I think that they do, when they do come out, I think it's more nocturnal, and that's probably why a lot of people aren't getting pictures of it, just like it seems like with a lot of uh really shy evasive cryptids, they just really don't like to come out in the middle of the day, you know what I mean? But just imagine if you had all that body of water, and you've and that's where all your food is, and then you could go down in, let's say there is really a cave system where you can go out, venture further into deeper waters. Why would you want to surface, during the middle of the day? I just don't think it's it'd be like asking why a bat's not out during the day.
During the day. Yep.
I think
Yeah,
that's
that makes sense.
basically the answer. And I do think that the occasion arises at times, and that's when we get these very few and far and in between captures. Um, but what's interesting is with the sonar, with the riverboats and where they're out, where the captains are out, they're actually picking up on this stuff. There is things that are really long and really tall that they can't explain what else that could be than Champy. You know what I mean? And
Right.
then you got to realize some people, a lot of people still, not as much as they used to be, but up until I'd say in the last 20 years, a lot of people aren't going to say they saw it or think that there is something on the sonar because they don't want people to discredit their reputation. I mean, a lot of people, especially let's just say a sea captain, that got this job, they're out on the channel, they're picking up something, but are they going to dare to say anything, or people are going to think they're crazy and the next thing you know, he might not be a sea captain? I think that's a real plausible reason why people that are on the water, some of them might not say anything until after they retire. I mean, that's a lot of what happened at Land Between the Lakes when it came to Dogman. Nobody wanted to talk about it, why they were in a position of a job authority, but then they would talk about it after they were retired, collecting their pension. You know what I mean? People do have their livelihoods.
Well, we do
So
have Samuel D. Champlain that mentions it, and I think he also mentioned, or maybe it's not him. Maybe I'm getting it confused with somebody else that talked about like the giant squid thing. I don't think that's Champlain. That might be somebody else.
I
But
think that's Oklahoma, the Okeechobee or the Oklahoma, the big octopus that's in Oklahoma, and that way.
exactly,
Yeah,
maybe, yeah, um, yeah, that might be who I'm trying to think of. Maybe I was thinking of somebody else too, but I can't think. There's too many to keep track of, in my own opinion. And anyway, I know Samuel D. Champlain wanted proof. I'm pretty sure. Now I might be getting confused with somebody else again. But yeah, anyway, I think it was just him that witnessed it, and then somebody else wanted a bounty on Champ, but that was never
yeah.
fulfilled. Basically,
Actually, you know who that was? Barnum.
Barnum. Thank you.
Yeah, that was I think like in the late 1800s. A $50,000 rant. Wanted was going to pay 50,000. And that's the whole thing. I just had this conversation with somebody a couple days ago, and let's just say that they get a Bigfoot and they get Champy and they got it a flesh and blood. People still aren't all going to believe it,
No.
and they're not going to want to change the trajectory of what we think, how everything is that we've been learning in these science books and history books from the beginning of the educational system. They'd have to rewrite everything. So you got that as well, even with David Pilates and Dr. Ketchum, had viable, which both of them are very credible to me. I mean, she had her own veterinarian. She was a veterinarian and had her own laboratory, and it was good enough for everybody until she had this specimen of Bigfoot, and then all of a sudden she got attacked because you're dealing with a whole system of people that don't want to acknowledge that this is
In
true.
fact, out there, yeah,
So you
or
got
could
to
be.
take a lot of that into consideration. But my biggest thing, I think, is that they're in their natural habitat. I just don't think they're going to, they might come up for air because they might have amphibious, characteristics, or not amphibious, but reptilian, and, want to come up like an alligator would, or a crocodile. But I don't think, uh, I think they're probably more amphibious, and then they've got their water, and I think they just like where they're at, kind of like they want to stay in their little cave. And I
Yeah,
think that if more people were literally under the water scuba diving in certain areas, I think that they probably would see more than what they wanted.
yeah, yeah. Now, the one thing that usually is boggled my brain, like especially for Vermont now, where like Lake Champlain is getting plundered with sewage and stuff like that. Like we just recently, as July approached, we had that whole blue algae crap shutting down the areas again, and it just makes me wonder for these type of creatures, like would that be some sort of food source for them, like the algae?
The
Maybe
algae, I mean, it could be. And if it was something that was dangerous to them, they would just go further out into the water, into the
right.
next body of water. Isn't
Yeah.
that the Atlantic Ocean that's further out?
I don't know if that's connected to it anymore, but yeah,
At
it would
one
be
time
the
it was. But
Atlantic.
if they're under the water in the cave systems, they can get in and out. I
Right.
do believe that there really is something on that line. And I think that, when I can't remember, and I think I did touch base with it a little bit, but I am really big on ley lines. I am really big on ley lines and a lot of different theories, including the squonk that we were talking about earlier. Um, and I do believe that with the ley lines, I believe that years and years ago, and I think I did pull up that particular statistics, but I think that like if you looked at where Lake Champy has been sighted, and then maybe Oklahoma, and I think there's something in Canada, and then you got Scotland. But if you look at all of the sightings of any kind of ley lines, with these different particular lake monsters, they would be at the same longitude.
Hmm.
And I think that that is a scientific probability that maybe that has something to do with why they would surface. I don't know why. I'm not a lake monster, but I think that that's interesting that somebody did do those statistics on that. And I can't remember what the exact longitude was, but it was exact all the way
Yeah.
across the world.
Yeah. I think you mentioned it in the book. So if you did, I just can't remember either
I
off the
can't
top of
remember
my
the
head.
exact number. So, but the blue algae, I don't know. They're pretty big critters,
Right.
them little champies. And, that would make sense why there would be a colony of them. Because if, it only takes two to procreate. And uh, I think that they just keep doing that. And who knows how long. I think I might have pulled that up in the research too, but I think their lifespans are a lot longer than what we think. Like, I don't know what a whale's lifespan is, but I would say it's way longer than what we're thinking. I think that because they would be kind of like cousins to that specific mammal, that it's probably uh, relatively, close, and thinking, they could be a couple hundred years old. Who knows? Or longer. Maybe they're vampires. I don't know.
According to what I'm reading, and I'm trying to figure out how I can sum this up pretty good. Um, it can be anywhere between 30 to 200 years old.
For a whale.
Yeah.
What about that whale that we found? I
The
wonder, because,
beluga.
that would be more prehistoric. I think that's the nature of the beast, is the prehistoric factor. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um,
So the beluga whale, that's saying 35 to like 50 years.
oh, okay.
That's still pretty long though.
And what
So,
about dolphins?
da 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 da. I don't see dolphins yet, so that sounds like it's going to be a whole different search real quick. So, dolphin. But yeah, that would make sense for, let's see, for a beluga whale at that time. 20 to 50 years for a dolphin.
Well, that's not as, I thought it might be longer, but because we don't really know about these prehistoric creatures, they could be a couple hundred years span. You know what I mean? We just don't know. Like a woolly mammoth, I don't know how long a woolly mammoth lasted, but it's probably longer than an elephant, I would say, because they were built for built pretty tough. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And another thing that we have to keep in fact and a factor is that just like the dolphins and probably the whale, they have the sonar ability. So possibly one another reason why we aren't seeing a lot of them resurface is because of their communication skills. Maybe
Right.
it's like danger, danger, stranger, stranger. I mean, really, we don't know. Or the dolphins could be communicating with them, and they come up, and they see things, and they might know that there's people. I mean, you don't. I mean, you really don't know. But I
Right.
think they do all communicate together.
Oh, they totally do because I mean I got another example after this, but I just pulled up what the longest dolphin life, and it was 67 years old from a dolphin in 2017. So we can definitely say that they are communicating because look at how orcas are doing, like what they're doing now. All of a sudden, they're trying to tip over boats and stuff,
Oh
and
yeah,
like you know, they're so intelligent, like for orcas, where like they figured out that if you flip a shark over, they go into that hypnosis thing, and then therefore easy prey. So yeah, I mean, I think orcas are becoming more smarter just by the fact of evolution.
and a little more aggressive. It sounds like.
Yes, depending on where it is, but I mean, whose fault is that? Maybe they're learning what us humans are doing to them.
I mean, it's obvious. Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, I know this, we're trying to talk water creatures, but we could maybe throw into the subject of like I just actually just saw a couple months ago a new poll or something about how bear attacks seem to be more um commoner now or something, like becoming more of a thing where like it's more higher this year or like frequently than it has been prior, which is interesting. So it's just like, what is going on? Well, if we're coming into their backyard, we're pretty much they're pretty much doing what we would be doing if they came into our backyard.
And that's
So,
what we when Ron and I just did this last show and a couple shows on elementals in general, including the squonk. That's the whole thing. The message when I wrote the book, hunting for not the pugwudgies, but the tommyknockers, which are in Colorado, which are connected to the ore, the gold.
mm,
Who is okay? So let's just think about it. We as humans have these lures of the leprechaun being the bad one, which would be in that category if you believed in elementals, would
right.
be like a Tommy knocker. But who are the ones that raped the land? Who are the ones that just took every ounce of the gold out? And the same thing with the iron ores down at Land Between the Lake and all the tin mines. And do you see what I'm saying? No wonder they can get hostile because look at what we're doing as humans.
Yep.
And so really we are the we're the culprits, not the victims. But
Yep.
we have a way of weaving stories and turning it around and projecting all of the things that we do as a strike against the collective that would be negative. We have a tendency to put that blame on an outside influence such as a lake monster or an orca whale or a tommy knocker or a leprechaun. You know what I mean? We're the ones that are greedy, not the leprechauns. That's our made man lore about leprechauns, which
Oh,
I,
that's
by the way, believe exist.
what leprechauns.
Oh, I believe there's a whole lot of different elementals. Yeah.
Yeah, Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think actually, before the show we talked about Jeremy Burton from the Common Historian, which is out now for our episode that we did together, and I'm on his for people that may not have heard that yet. But anyway, the point to this is, I think during that conversation with me and him, I want to say we kind of said something similar to like, well, the natives were here first, and if we supposedly traded and they chit chatted with the Bigfoot or Sasquatch or wild men, however you want to look at that. It's like, look at how they have witnessed what we did to the natives. Therefore,
Exactly.
is that why they're not as mm, I don't,
Friendly.
yeah, friendly, not around as much as
And
we.
that's what, and actually, Ron and I were on Jeremy's show, and that's what we were talking about is that, especially with the squonk, that's what the star of the show was that day. But it's just how we have really not been good stewards with this planet.
Oh God, no, no, no.
And so why would that be any different in our waterways than on our ground? You know?
Yep.
So maybe they're all conversing and talking shit about us. Who knows?
Well, the way I always look at it is whatever we're doing to the earth is going to come back at us 10 times more. So, or whatever we give to the earth is going to give back 10 times. It's that thing of give and take. If we give to it, we're going to receive. If we're going to take from it, well, I mean,
I agree.
yeah, it's just I just hate I just hate how humanity is doing what it's doing to the earth, and it's just yeah, it just saddens me every year when I hear something stupid that us humans are trying to do with the earth, and it's just like, oh God, here we go. Here what?
Yeah, and and think about it. If Champy really is a relic from like a plesiosaur or something, a water, plesiosaur, why wouldn't they know on a collective level what humanity has done to the waterways and where they live? I mean, and I think the Thunderbirds are also a relic. I do believe that they are a relic that comes in and out of like a portal, like maybe not a portal like what we're, well, I guess kind of a portal. I mean, I do believe it's like a time slip that opens
Yeah.
up and they come through, and I don't think it's any different with the lake monsters.
Well, we
It's
could
just that
almost
it's in
say,
the air, it's just in the
yeah.
sky, and then the lake monsters are in the waterways, which they would go down. Like you're not going to see a thunderbird, I don't think, going across New York City, and you're not going to see a Lake Champy. They're not going to see Champy showing up when there's 100 boats out on the water. I think they're just smarter than that.
Well, I'm glad that you kind of brought that up in a way, because like I remember when I had Katie on to talk for a little bit, we were talking about how if they're anything like regular animals, kind of like, let's just go back to bears for a minute. If a bear senses that a human's around, they're going to take off faster than we are going to see them. So are they doing the same thing when they hear the
Absolutely.
quieter, you know?
And
So,
I think it's the same applies with Bigfoot and all the other things, that go running around in the forest and stuff. Hell, I'm like that with people sometimes. It's like, oh, it's too peoply. I think I'll just wait till it's
oh, I
kind of
totally
dies
feel that.
down. I mean, I think some of us humans are actually getting more like the animals and the cryptids and the lake monsters. We don't necessarily want to go out and resurface. It's understandable. It's not like
Yep.
I don't think they're shy. I think they don't want to be bothered. They might have a really good intuition and know what we would probably do as a species, because we
Yeah.
like to catch stuff and then kill it. Unfortunately, that's what we do.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. And that's when
Just like a
animals become
dog would
endangered.
know, or people have instincts. Why wouldn't a lake monster or Bigfoot or a bear or a dog? I think we all have that instinct, to know when it's danger, danger.
Yep, yep. I totally feel that, and it just it just make me, like I said, interested and look at things more in a different perspective, especially with some encounters, like going back to whatever we do to the earth, it's gonna do whatever back to us, basically. Um, Animals are the same way. It's like like we just brought up with the dog. Just to say, if you bring up a dog when it's young to be aggressive, that's all it's gonna know. And then when it bites humans, what's it gonna do? What's gonna happen to it? It's gonna get put down. So why not have the same thing happen to like something else that's learning too? So
And
yeah, it's
I think that over, in legends and lores and stories and the days of the pirates with the Kraken and everything, I think there really is truth in a lot of the legends and stuff that we have. And they probably really did see the Kraken, but of course we think that's, the majority of people think that's a make believe thing. But they did find pethographs um, in the Vermont area, all the way up into Canada, that actually fits the description of Champy. You know what I mean? I think
totally.
that the closest, I think it was like 80 miles, which isn't right there where Champy was, but who's to say that it didn't move a little bit, on their route, like migration or something, moved up a little bit. Or when it was the sea, you know what I mean? They might have seen that, but
Oh, I'm wondering if you're talking about what's that other one called? Wake.
pethographs.
Yep, yep. But I'm
It's
talking about
about
it.
80 miles. I remember it being 80 miles away, so I don't know where that would be. But I think it's up in Canada.
Right, and then if you come back down a little bit, back into Vermont, there's another one where I don't know how much you, like I said, going back to, I don't know how much more you know about Vermont, but we also have an area. It's called, they call it Lake Willoughby or the Glacial Lake, where supposedly they have the boy, am I gonna get it? No, that's Woodbury. So the water wisp, I think, which is like the gigantic eel or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
So I could totally maybe see that subscription for that area.
And that's the whole thing. Like when I did the book, so, and this is another thing about ley lines that I think that more researchers really need to start looking into. So I'm in northern Kentucky. Within an hour is the Ohio River. Just, it's literally 5 minutes across the river from where I'm at. But
Mhm.
then you go an hour into Serpentine Mound, which is in Peoples, Ohio. And it is a beautiful area. They have a Bigfoot festival, or it's very remote, very rural. Um, and it's the mound is shaped like a serpent. Well,
Hmm.
just so happens that's only 30 miles away from where the Loveland Frogman is, and also the other monster that was down where they do the Renaissance Festival, which is another 20 minutes in the same direction. And so I find it interesting that in that particular area, they're all water cryptids mainly. There is dogman encounters and there's Bigfoot encounters in certain areas, but
Hmm.
don't you find it interesting that in that particular area there is a lot of water cryptids along the Ohio River? Some people say that they're even living under the river, that there's a whole nother like hollow earth civilization down
Ah,
there.
yes, I did hear about that.
And
Yep.
not to mention Fort Wright, the Air Force Base, where the alien grays are and all the crazy stuff happens. I'm not making this up. It's all in that particular area. You know,
Mm.
it's in Dayton, Ohio, which is not far from where I'm talking about. It's a little bit more north. But don't you? I actually have a really close friend whose sister-in-law works on the base. And do you know what their mural is when you go into that particular Air Force
Section.
base?
Yeah. No.
Frogs.
Interesting.
That's a mural. There's a literally a mural. So a lot, including myself, I believe that maybe they've got a hold of a couple like the Frogman and maybe did some kind of mutation through hybrid, experimentation and stuff. And that, so it's not just one thing, but native, like on a native level, with
Hmm.
back to the Serpent Mound, these primitive Indians, they worshipped the Draco star system. That's why there was meteorites that created the mound, but they shaped that into the serpent because that is what they worshipped. So when you have a collective group of a whole tribe for thousands and thousands of years worshiping this particular deity,
Yep.
why would we not think that that could manifest? That's an egregore, typical
Mm.
egregore. So, maybe that is why they are native. It was a Crosswick monster, which was in this is all in my Hunting for Frogman. That's a really fun book. It's a really an interesting book. And they're actually at the Renaissance Festival, which makes it really fun. But the Crosswick monster, that happened in the late 1800s, and there was like probably 20 witnesses that were outside, because that was when they were all kind of working together in the fields. We're talking the mayor, a preacher, a physician, and then all the townspeople. These men saw them, and it was 50 feet long, and literally got a hold of this little boy that was like 6 years old that was down by the water and had it in his mouth. And I dug up the archives, and they had testimonies where they signed it saying this really happened.
Holy crap.
So why would we? And so where it went, how it got away. It did finally drop the boy out of his mouth, but it went into a cave.
Of course you did.
And that's why I'm saying, so if we got these caves and things that are on the land, why would we not think that that could happen in the water with Champy?
Right. Yeah. Especially with some places. I don't know. I think I've read Lake Champlain has an area that at certain times of the year you can get access to versus not getting access to. So again, that would make sense too.
And I think when when the time comes, when they are slowly getting down under the waterways, I think the more that they explore, that my theory is going to be correct. I think there are cave systems that go in, and really they could do that all around the world. I mean, that they could interlock and go in and out with different channels and stuff. So we could have all kinds of different species that are just way down beneath.
I'll counteract that and say we could even propose that with the whole idea of going back to UFOs or USOs, depending on how you want to look at it. But for the example, I'll just say USO just to make it seem more uh, accurate with what I'm
Right.
gonna say. But anyway, I cannot remember the other two locations besides the fact of, or maybe I know of two locations except for maybe the third one. Anyway, the point to this is we definitely know that there's an underground pyramid in Alaska because they call that the Black
The
Pyramid.
Black Pyramid, yes.
And
That's in
then
my book, actually, Hunting for
yep,
UFOs,
yeah,
which which I do believe is a hub center for energy where they get
charging.
replenished, yes.
Yep,
And why wouldn't that be underwater?
exactly. And then that goes to the possible second location that I can think of would be Antarctica because why not?
And that's actually in detail in my Rise of the Cryptids book. And Andrew Gow, which is an expert in Antarctica and Admiral Byrd and Nazi Germany, he has something called the conspiracy theory. He
Hmm.
wrote the foreword for my first two books, and he really gave me a great honor by giving me a shout out because he has followed my work and stuff, but that's exactly what he's saying. There is definitely something going on with Antarctica, and he substantiates what I have in the book you
And
know
then there's one more location, and that's the one that I don't know where that one is, where I'm probably getting lost. But I heard there's supposedly possibly three underwater pyramids, but I definitely can remember Alaska and Antarctica. But I think there's supposed to be one more, but I can't think right now. But it would make sense that there would be three because depending on how much it needs to be replenished. And we didn't bring this up for this conversation. Maybe we could bring it up maybe in a later conversation too. But
hmm
we were, well, you know what? Just to go back to the Russia real quick, that would actually tie in perfectly. That Russia lake there, you said that's fresh water, right?
hmm
Um, I think we've heard how, or yeah, maybe some campers or whoever the hell they were, but they were like out on a beach or some random place camping or something, and all of a sudden, like this UFO shows up and just starts taking water, like up into their ship, which I think was actually fresh water. So what,
yes, yes,
what,
yes.
what the key with fresh water? I guess.
Well, I mean, I do really believe that Tesla actually, that's in some of his formulas, which, when he passed away, 40 of his trunks were taken mysteriously. And I
Yes.
do believe that that's the very reason why it was that kind of formula, that kind of work that he was working on, where we wouldn't need petroleum, we wouldn't need electric, we would literally be able to energize our vehicles and whatever else we wanted, probably ourselves, with fresh water.
Yeah, it's just interesting. So anyway, to help wrap up real quick, DA, because I don't want to take any more of your time, but the last thing I want to ask you for the Sea Serpent Day, and I guess we'll leave it with that, and then you can do your final comments, and I once again remind everybody of your book and where to find you and stuff. But so my last question for you tonight is you probably are familiar with that show that came out in 2019, maybe earlier than that. Anyway, it's called Mystery Decoded. When they came here to do Lake Champlain, they tried to get samples from Lake Champlain in three different spots of the lake to try to see if they could maybe get some sort of DNA to help prove the existence of Champy. Out of your research and knowledge, maybe, do you feel that, you know, if these sea serpents are out there, do you think it would be harder to get their DNA, or do you think we really have to just be around at the right time ready to grab it, I guess?
Um, I mean, because it's such a large body of water, I'm not an expertise on DNA, but it seems like if they would have went far enough out, like maybe where even the sightings were at, and
I
they
think that's what they did.
and they did get the water, I do definitely think that it would come up that. Now, what if they weren't told to release? I mean, sometimes people have to suppress the
Yes.
information that they get. Is That's the first thing that came to my mind, just because of the how they handled Dr. Melba Ketchum. You know what I
Mm.
mean? She had DNA. Her and actually David Pilates actually brought some of the DNA to him, and we're talking a skull, jawbone. I mean, and that's what I'm saying. Some people will still argue, well, that's not enough.
Yeah.
So what were the findings? Did they say that they felt like?
They they didn't find anything that would seem to be like serpent, but they did actually tell us that there is some species in Lake Champlain that they never knew about until now. So
I'm gonna have to check that out. I think I remember watching it years and years ago, but I don't really get to watch a lot of TV. I'm always writing. But that would make sense. And, just like what I mentioned, and Katie Elizabeth and a lot of other researchers, we think that it is probably both amphibious and reptilian.
Hmm.
So, I don't know how that would show up as markers in a DNA analysis. I don't
Yeah,
know how many things that are in there that would be. I don't even know if they would have DNA for serpent. Uh,
I think it would just show up as like unknown, like a Bigfoot would. Cause I mean, we got enough to say, like, what's your common thing that you hear? It's like 98% human and 2% unknown or something like that.
right.
I can't remember. But without that unknown, we're never gonna know. So I guess what they were looking for is like if there was something in there, maybe adds like a sea serpent, maybe we would get that
Yeah,
unknown.
we'll have to look that up just for our own records and knowledge and know what that is. I'd be curious to see what the percentage was. Like with Bigfoot, I think, and I can't remember the scientific terminology, but it's
Oh, me either.
the male DNA that's missing, or the maternal that's missing. No, the maternal that's missing that would be human. Uh, or is it the other way around?
Oh yeah, I don't. Yeah, I know what you're trying to say now. Yeah, I don't know that term either, but yes, I know what you're trying to get at.
And see, actually, and so for all we know, that Bigfoot could be that missing factor, the
Yep.
missing link.
Yeah, yeah. They have the female, but not the male, if I
Right.
remember right. I did
That's
hear.
it. That's what would be it. And so it's not anything known to us. So
Yep.
why wouldn't we think that, that could be a thing? And the same thing with Champy. Um, And like I said, because I think that the evolution of maybe what it once looked like compared to
Had
what
changed.
it once now is, and you don't know, they could have interbred with these beluga whales or other, you know,
Things. Yeah.
things in the water. Um, so that would be a really open ended interesting topic in itself, just the DNA and the scientific discoveries that, just imagine if they really did come back with something like that, how it would just change the course of the scientific community in itself.
It would change the writing again. That's for sure. So, um, did a freaking book that just came out too that I'm trying to remember what it's called now because it caught my attention because it was supposedly talking about this hybrid of a Bigfoot. I can't think of what they dubbed him now. Not Patty, or maybe it was no, not Patty. I'll get back to you on that. It's brain farting me right now, but there's a book about some hybrid. They kind of just used the first name, but that was it. But it was still fascinating because it was like the way this person was or whatever was just different than any other human, and this was like way back in the day. But anyway, there's a book on him now, and again, it's escaping
You
my.
have to check that out.
But yeah, it's just interesting and fascinating at the same time. I just hope maybe one day we can just get the unknown and maybe solve the mystery. But then once the mystery is there, it's like, well, that's it. What do we do now? So
Oh, there's always, when I'm in that rabbit hole, I'm always thinking there's just no weird, it can't get no weirder. And guess what? It always gets weirder and weirder. It's never going to quit getting weirder. We just will keep going down and be finding out things. I think as long as we live here on this planet, we're always going to have some kind of unknown discoveries. And that's what makes life so exciting for me, the exploration and the discovery of, when I write about monsters and when I write about other things like that, I actually learn a lot about myself, in my own belief systems and things, with the reason why I believe a certain thing. And I think that applies to all of us. We we regurgitate what we've been told. So with my books, I've been
Make you
told that
question.
helps them,
Yeah.
kind of think outside the box a little and question the narrative.
Yep, which is not always a bad thing. It's always good to kind of think outside the box and rethink of things around you again and stuff because everything changes in the end, that's for sure. But yeah, so DA, again, thank you for your time. And again, your book, if you want to just show it one more time for
I did want
everybody.
to
And
mention that my
yeah,
friend Kevin Lee Nelson actually wrote the foreword, and he is kind of an expertise on Lake Champy. So give him a follow too. He's a fellow author and researcher as well. And I do appreciate you having me on the show. You can find me on Amazon. Give me a follow on Instagram. I'm not really on Twitter that much. I just can't keep up with all the platforms, but I am pretty active on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. I've got to get a little bit of a following on there, which is kind of fun there, because it's on TikTok. It's got to be true.
yeah, the reels are something on there, that's for sure.
Yeah, they really are out of this
Yeah.
world, some of them. But
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's been fun. Thank you, Paul, for having me on.
Of course, and all the information for everybody else that are gotten this far will be in the description. I hope in the future episode of this.
And definitely check out my audiobooks. And I wanted to let I love it when people read, especially my books. But as independent authors and all authors, we really do appreciate reviews. So if you do get to take a listen on audiobook or Kindle, or if you buy the paperback, if you can leave a review, it is greatly appreciated. It really does help with the algorithms, just like and subscribe for the Haunted Vermont, because it really does make a big difference. Just hit that like button.
That's right. And speaking of reviews, as of this recording too, depending on whether you're hearing it after the whatever amount of time had passed from this release, there will be a review for D. Hayes on the Hunt for Champy anyway that I have did that will be coming out for Sea Serpent Day anyway. So
okay, I appreciate it. So I'll look for that on Amazon. I appreciate it.
I will try to put it on Amazon too, but it will be on the website too, which will be hauntedvermont.org. So
okay, that sounds good.
Yeah. And for everybody else, yeah, make sure you follow DA for all the crazy, chaotic reading that you can have your eyeballs glued to or your ears for when you're working like I do. That's why I prefer audio sometimes, just because of if it did get mentioned in the earlier part of this conversation where sometimes we're just too darn busy, that audiobook just seems to be our go-to. So like I said, everything will be in the description of this episode for everybody to follow along. Yeah, and for everybody, keep your eyes open because you just never know what the hell you're going to find out there. Whether it's going to be a UFO plunging in and out of the water, maybe trying to do something with Champ, like carrying him off to the next realm of the unknown, or Champy just coming out because he had this itch on his back. I don't even know where to go with that. So anyway.
Or there might be a UFO with scales. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, that's a new one to me, so we'll just roll with it. So keep your eyes open and report back, everybody.